G'day, I'm Mitch. Welcome to Lounge Room Hobbies, and it's another one of those kind of vloggy style videos this time, all about talking about my first tournament ever that I've run. So very different to the last time I did this, where I talked about the first tournament I'd ever played in. But how did we get here in about 18 months, from first tournament played in to running? The simplest answer is that I moved from Canberra in the ACT in Australia to Tasmania, Hobart specifically. And when I got here, I found a very different community to what I'd come out of in Canberra. Canberra had a large shop with a dedicated group of Age of Sigmar players who were just smashing through tournaments. And then on top of that was a wider national community of multi-day tournaments that happens all across kind of mainland Australia. That mainland difference is going to come to the fore a little bit when we talk about those national tournaments in Tasmania. Versus 3 hours to, several million people in Sydney out of Canberra. So you get this different spread, you get a few people moving around, but the community is just inherently smaller. And when I got here, I found a small community, just starting to play some events after coming out of COVID lockdowns, which had hampered a couple of years of events starting. So I came into what was a relatively fresh community, and almost immediately insinuated myself so far in that I was running events fairly quickly, something I've talked about in other videos, running a few leagues and things like that, but just things to get the community playing. I held off running a tournament though, because I wanted it to be the best thing I could produce. While also, I wanted it to be inclusive, I wanted it to be competitive, and the goal with that meant that I needed time in the lead up to do it properly, which I hadn't had since I'd moved down. I did manage to play in 3 tournaments, one up in Burnie that I won, actually. If I'm going to talk up tournament wins, I mean, came with a trophy. So that was my first tournament where I moved to Tassie and went to a tournament almost immediately after moving down and won. Sorry guys, the mainlander Hobart guy coming to steal your tournament win probably still isn't sitting well. Where was I? So yeah, I wanted time to run events properly the way I wanted. I wanted to see how the local community played events, and there was a whole run of different things. There was a 2-day, 4-game, 2,000 point tournament. We've had a 1,500 point Anvil of Apotheosis Hero tournament. We did something over Christmas that was more around fun narrative armies and playing bingo, like hobby bingo. So this is the first, I would say, competitive style event. 1 day, 3-game, 2,000 point matched play tournament for Tassie. Why that? Well, that's the format I like playing, so it's going to be the type of game and type of event I run. And that's true for everything I've run so far. I like the leagues for the relaxed playing environment over 12 weeks and multiple games. So that's how we got here. That's how we got to running an event. The event, as I'm recording this, is in about 3 days' time. And I'll be setting up the Friday before at Area 52 in Hobart. Andrew, thank you for hosting and supporting. So what is this video about then? I guess it's a primer to understand how I went about running a tournament, not the details of the event, and how maybe you can do it if you're interested in running events for yourself. And the simplest starting point is you need to go to events. You need to play in a few. Not many, just enough for you to get a feel of what you want to run, even if it's completely different to everything you participate in, because you will see how people go about it and what you do or don't like about what's been run. So I've played in about 6 tournaments, only two of which have been multi-day events. I really enjoy the single day format because it gives me more of my weekend. But the experience and the vibe at multi-day events can't be beaten. So I will eventually run one of those too, hopefully a Hobart Grand Tournament, potentially even later this year. So that was easy then, right? I've played some leagues, I've run some leagues, I've played some tournaments, and I want to run a one-day event. Well, the next thing you need is a place. Realistically, if you're in a local community group, playing most stores, you're going to be able to run events. The only place where I've seen people struggle to run events is in an actual Games Workshop store, and that's just because, for the most part, they're small. They don't have a lot of table space, at least my experience in Australia. I know there's a couple of really big Games Workshop stores. And if that's your opportunity, we'll go talk to the store manager. I'm sure they'd be willing to support you to run an event. Once you find a place, talk to owner, manager, staff, and just be upfront and say, I want to run this. They're more than likely going to support you and give you resources to run that event. Once you've done that, you've just got to advertise the crap out of it. This might be the first time I've sworn on camera. You've got to advertise it a lot to your local community. Facebook is a great tool for this. There's lots of groups, but you want to talk it up to everyone that you know that plays as well for weeks in advance. But I guess I'm jumping ahead. The step you've got to do is set out what you want to run. And how you want to run it. I wanted to run a rules overhead low tournament, as in I didn't want to layer any extra layers of information over the top of the game for the tournament itself than was needed to make it flow. So that meant a really simple pairing and scoring tool, which is the Best Coast Pairings app. Really simple rounds, which is completely random on the day. I'm going to roll them out of the General's Handbook. And the format you're playing in, I'm playing match play competitive directly out of the General's Handbook. No community comp, no modifications, just as it's written by Games Workshop. For better or for worse, and I know that some people will think that there's better ways to do it or not, but I'm doing it because it's easy. Everyone has a copy of that book. If they're playing, it's a printed resource. You can't argue with it because that's just the rules as they're written. The next layer over the top of that is, are you going to wait and let in new armies on release or FAQs? And the simplest answer was, whatever's out at the point where we play the tournament is what we play. Don't have to worry if it's FAQ'd or not, we're just going to play it, and I've got to deal with it as the TO if there's a rules query. Okay, a little bit more work for me, less work for everyone else, and in the lead up. Similarly, I'm not taking lists. So large events and some one-day events, you'll submit a list beforehand to the TO who will check it to be, correct within the rules for the event you're playing. I'm not doing that. I set out what it was, which is 2,000 points match play, which is described in the General's Handbook. And that's it. I'm then leaving it to my players to come to that event with their lists correct and with a copy for their opponent. And that's it. I, on the day, will check the lists. I want photos of the list because I want to share them here and talk them through. And that's it. If I find that someone's done the wrong thing, which I just don't see happening, because why would you be that person? It could happen. It's a miniatures game. If you feel the need to cheat in a miniatures game, go nuts. I will never play with you again, and you'll never be at one of my events, because I do them for fun, not to win some store credit or a box of miniatures. But if you feel the need to do that, great. Enjoy your life. It's going to be awful lonely when you run out of places to play. But anyway, where was I? That's it. That's the event. That's what I'm running. So what do you take away from it? You need a place. You need to understand the event you want to run, and you need to understand what overhead you're doing to run it. So if you are really confident, you can go from there. If you're not really confident, and there's an event organizer in your area, ask them if they need help. They more than likely do, because I would love some help. I've got some great people helping me out. I still feel like I'd like help, or maybe to not work for a week beforehand. they'll take on your help. You can learn how to run events. You can be on the side. You could be a judge for like painting or rules queries. Off you go from there. That's basically where I want to leave it now. I've been talking for 10 minutes. I've got a timer watching this. Where does this leave me? Well, the event's in a couple of days. I'm going to come back at the end of that and I'm going to give you my learnings from my first tournament event, because I sound great here in my own head. Let's see how it plays out in practice. I guess the last thing, and something that I got to confirm today, which I'm really excited by, is that I managed to get this event sponsored by a amazing miniatures accessory company here in Australia called Terrainheim. They do MDF and acrylic tokens and gauges. They have no idea that I'm talking about this right now. I should stop getting up. I want to run Mysterious Terrain for this event, so they kindly, they don't even sell these yet, printed me some Mysterious Terrain tokens in Lounge Room Hobbies purple. Not that anyone knows that yet. So this is them. There's some cool photos on my Instagram, some producty stuff. These are amazing. I am super impressed. I love the color, and they're going to be really helpful unless Games Workshop changes the Mysterious Terrain. Please don't. Please. So now I've got a really simple and amazing tool. So Brad at Terrainheim, thank you very much. These are awesome. But in getting these done, I asked the question is whether he was interested in sponsoring the event, and he was. So in doing that, he's also thrown some Terrainheim branded combat gauges, which are just, the way they catch the light is really cool. So these are really cool, and it's now something free I get to give to my players on top of everything else that I'm doing for this event. So hopefully everyone loves it. I'm looking forward to it. So 12 minutes now, I need to stop talking. I will come back in a couple of days' time, and we'll talk about the event, some of my favorite lists. I'm playing in the event, so I'll tell you how that went. So let's cut to me setting up at Area 52. See some of the tables. So it's been 2 weeks since the tournament at this point. I hope to film this sooner, but life gets in the way, as it normally does. And I didn't want to sit on a couch, so we're at the beach. It was a really nice sunset. Hopefully you enjoyed some of that starting stuff. So where are we? What do I want to cover? Well, the first thing, I guess, don't bury the lead. I came 5th in my own tournament, which is probably better than coming first. And firmly middle range. We had 12 people come to the event, which was fantastic. Hopefully I don't get drowned out by the waves. The event did have 25 people say they were going to turn up through Facebook, so my lesson there really is that 50% turnout is probably really amazing. There was certainly more people at this event than we've had for previous Tassie events, so I'm going to take that as a win. On top of that, the Terrainheim branded markers and sponsorship went down really well. People really enjoyed those. So Brad, again, thank you for sponsoring. I really appreciate it. So results. Gwillem won the event with a Boric Warclan's Maw-Crusher-led ridiculous output list. I think it's best identified by his last round game where he removed Archeon and a good portion of the Varangard army in turn 1, and the game was over by battle round 2. So, well done to him for that win. Sam, his opponent who was playing Archeon, was having a great run until that point too, with 2 wins. So, luck of the dice and a really nice deployment by Gwillem, I think, for that win. Other highlight lists for me was honestly playing against a Troggoth list. I haven't seen one of those on the table yet, so they were quite fun. And killed my Archeon, so that went well. Have to commend Taz for his best painted with a really gorgeous, Troggoth list with Pragnos in it. Great oranges. And this is where I come to the key point for me, which is that if I'm going to run in a tournament and I want to play in it, I have almost no hope of getting any kind of footage of it. I have a few photos on my phone of the tables and some of the games on the way, and I have no photos of the best painted, the winners' armies, anyone else's armies. I barely have photos of my own. So for the next one, I'm going to try and line up a photographer or something for that, I think. And luckily I have a Tamon who's giggling behind the camera right now. Yes, my partner will more than likely be co-opted into doing some photography, maybe some videography for me. Bribed into doing. If I want to do stuff like this, or even just share things wider in the community, and I want to keep playing, I just can't do everything. So there's your lesson for you. If you want to do more than just run a tournament, you might need more than one person running the event. Now, in my opener, I talked about some differences between the national mainland Australia tournament scene and Tassie one, and the big one I just want to flag is that it's only me and the couple other guys that work as TOs down here. Just got swooped by some pigeons. There's only a couple other guys that do TO stuff down here for an entire state, versus when you go back to New South Wales, Queensland, Victoria, there's multiple shops and multiple places all running events all the time. So that workload gets spread out and there's more things all the time. So that's our big difference. If we don't run it, nothing's probably going to happen. And we all have full-time jobs, lives, partners, girlfriends, dogs, other hobbies that we like doing. That's the big difference for Tassie versus the rest of Australia. You can't just pop over the border for another tournament because you're looking at 8 hours on a boat or most of the day flying. I'd love it to be 3 hours of driving. If anyone's in Launceston and you think about running tournaments, please do, I'll come. Just so I don't have to run everything, it'd be great, but I do enjoy running it.
When's the next one?
So next one, I am planning to run the Hobart Hammer-On Grand Tournament, #1. lovingly abbreviated to Hogged, in probably September of this year, 2022. So if you're interested in coming, and I know a fair few of my subscribers are actually in America, so you know, if you want to come to a Tasmanian Grey tournament, you're more than welcome. And for you Australian guys, I expect you to turn up. So you can come down from Canberra, the few of you that are watching across Australia. It'll be a 2-day event, 2,000 points. Again, I'll try and run it at Area 52. Andrew has been amazingly supportive of us in the community, and it's a great space to play in. I think I'll leave this at that, because otherwise I'm going to ramble on for another 12 minutes and we can all give up on this video. So I'll leave you with this beach shot for a couple of minutes, and chat to you next time. That's going to be an awful sound.